There we go.
Just us.
Hello.
All right, we've been meaning to do this for a while, but with everything, with all the energies and whatnot, we just finally felt it's time. I actually have enough for 2 videos, but we'll see what we get through and how it goes. I almost feel like the first one, which I made up
Yesterday?
last night,
yesterday
during the day, is almost like, it seems like it happened so long ago.
So yesterday.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right. The first one on this part of the list is hacking the mainframe. White hats to bring up new software scenario with buy-in from people while old is running, but may require soft boot.
Mm-hmm.
Black hats are repositioning their hackers to keep this from happening, while white hats are positioning their hackers to inform the masses and get their approval.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really look at what's all going on with the impeachment or what, this has been been talking about in the news and all that for a week now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They still haven't voted on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the threat of impeachment, not the actual impeachment, because the Dems don't want to go to impeachment because they're the ones that are going to be brought into the light. They're what they've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want to do that. So it's the threat of impeachment.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's going on while this is going on underneath it all.
Mm-hmm.
This is involving everyone at the top. So this is the galactics, this is the white hats, the black hats, and all that, the people who know what's going on. So they're all doing that. The next one these all go together. Your response to triggers constitutes your vote.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get consciously down here, we don't know what's going on. So consciously, we don't get a vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's subconsciously what you do in your dream time when you go out of 3D is when you get to vote. You may not realize it, but your conscious does this, and your subconscious kind of dances away and around it and through it and whatnot. That's the real you. Mm-hmm. That's what we're trying to marry up by raising our frequency and trying to find that. So right now we're predominantly conscious, and while the subconscious is out there doing, things that we're more or less not aware of. Mm-hmm. We get little hints, we get little things in our dreams, whatnot. We bring things in and we wonder, where'd that come from? Mm-hmm. Well, that's your link to the other part of you. And what we're trying to do is marry that up. And actually, I should say that it's up here. We're trying to raise our frequency so that we can be consciously aware of what our subconscious is doing. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what's going on. The next one is white hats want to install a system upgrade by the end of the year, but are waiting on our approval, which is tallied from responses to triggers/energies. Mm-hmm. So I say the end of the year. Okay. They want to do it before a certain, I want to say time frame, but it's not really a time frame. It's before a set of circumstances arise. Mm-hmm. They want to get this in before the next wave. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I just said the end of the year. That was my conscious deciphering.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is not exactly what they were saying. I didn't have a way to put it in English. So this is what I put in there. This thing could happen anytime, and you'll see when I get to the other stuff. I just said end of the year because I didn't know what else to say. I didn't get the feeling it was next year, but then again, I could be way off.
It's more like an end of a cycle or something more than an end of a year, more than a date. Yeah.
Yeah. I got some more clarification on the other list, so we'll see how that goes. Starseeds are the antennas for vote collecting, triggers, grounding, triage, energy transfers, and coordination during dream time. This is why they are empathetic. So consciously, you may know you're a starseed, but that doesn't mean consciously you know all that you're doing when you're away from yourself subconsciously. You're doing much more than you know. If you're a starseed, you are very active. You want to know why you go to bed and you wake up and wonder, what in the world happened last night? Because I'm tired, or this is now aggravating me, or that's aggravating me. It's because you were working. You were activating other things. You were triggering things. You were collecting things. You were coordinating things based on what your mission and your role is. Our missions are for our subconscious. They're not really for our conscious being. We're trying to tap into that. We're trying to raise our frequency to be more aware of it. That's what ascension is. That's what we're trying to get into. And it's coming online more and more. We are in a daily go, no-go decision time based on the overall vote. And the overall vote includes the white hats. They're more aware of reality, of what's really going on, than we are. So our subconscious votes. Our conscious doesn't vote. The starseeds collect those votes. They see what's what, and all of that is tallied, and that's how they determine the timeline and when things are going to kick off and when to hold off. We do that. The starseeds do that. They speed time up. They slow down based on coordination of what's going on and what's to come, what's getting ready to hit. Let's see. This is going to happen and is a matter of timing, since the vote to approve has already been given. The votes now are for when.
Yeah, it's to gauge that end of the cycle period.
Right.
Yeah.
All forces are on standby. All forces across the world, above the world, inside the solar system, outside the solar system, they're all on standby. So the vote has already been, we've already passed the vote to do this. It's now it's just a matter of time. For our appearance here from conscious level, it's just a matter of time. They're already doing it. It's already being kicked off. When do we see it down here? When the starseeds allow it to happen, or open up the floodgates.
Well, it goes back to some of the roles, grounding, triggering, some of those roles that the starseeds are playing. That's when it brings it into.
Yeah. So they're bringing it in, but they throttle it depending on what their subconscious is picking up from each starseed creates their own hub. And within your hub are your friends, family, those that you engage with the most, because that subconsciously you're picking up their energy and their frequency.
Yeah.
And you tally that. You keep track, you're coordinating, even though you may not be aware of it. If you're woke and you're open to being a starseed, you're doing that. Even the ones that don't know that they're starseeds are doing it.
Yeah.
They just don't, they're not aware of their subconscious and what their subconscious mission is.
Yeah.
That their mission is underway.
There's a lot of those out there.
Yeah. Like I said, all forces are on standby. The next one is personal upgrades are queued up for dissemination depending on frequency unlocks. Your unconscious self is preparing and knows, but your conscious self only knows something is changing or feeling off.
Yeah.
So take that as you will. The last one on this list is nothing to do now but relax and put your trays in the upright position.
Yeah.
It's true. There's nothing, consciously, there's nothing you need to do. The best thing you can do is relax and take care of yourself, because your real work is being done by your subconscious when you're sleeping. So get your sleep so that you can perform your mission and you're not so tired.
Yeah.
Take a nap. I mean, seriously, take a nap. There's the mindset against naps. That's old.
And it doesn't have to be a long nap.
No,
either. Yeah.
even a 15-minute nap, because time doesn't matter out there. Time doesn't matter out there, but it has an impact on you here. So anything you can do to give your subconscious, well, your subconscious is doing anyway, but the more you can give your conscious physical body a break, and lighten its load, the more receptive you will be to all these things going on. So I also wrote down, expect some disruptions. Now, I didn't get the feeling of major disruptions, but I did get certain websites going down. Certain big names on, say, Twitter or other social media being blocked or being pushed out. I don't know. It's kind of hard.
Interfered with it.
Yes, because a lot of them are disinfo agents. Even the ones that seem like they're, for the good of humanity or whatnot. It's like you listen to them and you go, you read what they're saying, and most of it sounds pretty good, but then they sneak this one thing in there. All they're doing is using this as a honey trap to get. It's like, if you'll buy 80% of what I'm saying, then I can get you on the 20%.
Yeah, we've felt that several times, either reading articles or watching documentaries or shows. I mean, there'll be part of it, and then you just feel it, and it's like, so
that's use your own discernment, but really, your subconscious is doing the work. The best thing you can do is help yourself, and that's where discernment comes in, because it will, if you utilize your discernment to say, that feels good, hey, that feels good, hey, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't feel so good, stop doing it. It'll help you consciously, but subconsciously you'll keep doing what you need to do, unless your conscious starts dragging your subconscious down.
Yes. Yeah, like sluggishness.
Right. So that's that. All right, the next list, I figured that would be fast now, since...
Yeah, the energy's kind of like, it's interesting.
All right, so I just got this one today. The first one is the courage to touch your angel. Your conduit to the outer world. Not everyone will have the courage to touch their angel.
Yeah.
This will allow you to tap into what your subconscious is doing. and know more about what's going on. But not everyone can handle the truth. Not everyone can handle what's going on. Not everyone can handle the pace that it is going on right now, because it is happening at breakneck speed.
And even though it's breaking loose and breaking us free, it can feel very destabilizing.
Yes.
For some. Yeah.
Because what we call evil, I mean, these are definitions down here in 3D. Out there, it's energy. It's just energy. It's light and dark.
Yeah.
That's really how things work. We translate down here in 3D into the paradigm definitions. And then we utilize that to govern how we live.
Yeah.
And it's not realistic. It's only relative to this 3D.
Yeah, because I mean, you can't really have one without the other in the polarity.
Well, this goes away. This paradigm's definitions goes away, and then you stick in another one. Then you stick in another one. Then you stick in another one. We're moving into a new paradigm. It's going to have a whole new set of definitions.
Yeah.
And that's what this is signifying is going on. So the next one is dare to feel all that you are made of. You'll feel like you're making it up, but keep going. You'll start pulling in stuff that seems kind of fantasy, or you'll just find the impressions or the words, and you may jot them down. You may just talk to yourself. So a lot of people are just going to block. They're going to continue to block them, and that's to them. But if you want to, you can start tapping into it. It'll seem like you're making these things up. And if you need to, create a fantasy, kind of like I'm on my fantasy time right now, and say there's no rules, there's no blocks. You just write down. It'll feel like you're making it up, and that's okay. You're in fantasy land. Just keep going with it, and you'll be amazed. If you don't engage this, you'll be amazed at what comes through. But it's to each his own. You know what you allow yourself to get into. It's how I got to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when I first started doing it, I was like, am I making this up? I'm like, how could I make this up? I mean, all these videos and all this stuff, how could I make this up?
Yeah, and it all ties together in a complex way that you don't even really get it until we start to read through many of them.
Yeah, and I'm not that intelligent to do all that. Sorry, but so I do it out of gratitude. When I put this together, I'm grateful that I get to be a part of it and be aware that I'm being a part of it. And I think that allows me to keep going with it.
Yeah.
The next one is hacking the time change. It's an attitude of you've got all the time you need. Instead of stress, instead of pressure, it's hacking the time change, which we're coming into beginning in November. It's an attitude. It's an attitude. You've got all the time you need. If you truly believe it, you will have all the time you need. You'll be amazed that you thought you were going to miss this meeting or be late for it. And you'll just be amazed how you'll get there just in time. You'll get in time. You'll be there in time that you need to.
Yeah, that's happened to me before, where I've left here because of getting up late or whatever and thinking there is no way I would make it. And I would arrive there 10 minutes early from when I needed to be there. And it's like no logical explanation for it. Even in conversations you have, if you release it, it happens. If you stress about it, you actually are causing the problem.
And if you stare at the clock, you're going to get what you get.
Yes. Yeah.
You just have to believe, and you have to ride that wave and just feel that things are going to work out the way they need to work out for you.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I got more on this on time, but my counsel said, no, that's it. That's good for now.
Mm-hmm.
Because time is a much bigger one to come to follow this.
Yeah, because we're losing, or not losing, but disconnecting our sensors with how we felt time worked previously to how it's working now is very different.
Yeah, we're not going to get rid of time.
Mm-mm.
What we're going to do is we're going to modify its operating
mm-hmm.
so that it doesn't cause stress.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that is a little bit later stage.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one is summoning the dragons.
Mm.
The powers that be are fearful of dragon energy, hence their evil portrayal in movies.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon energy has been summoned by the star dragon stone sorcerer to breathe fire into the light forces that stand against those of the dark.
Yeah, I can feel that.
This is going on now. So
mm-hmm.
the dragon energy is just flowing right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is huge.
Give me chills.
It is huge, 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 huge.
Yeah, give me chills.
So the next one says dragon symbology will spread like flames. For those who have eyes to see, dragon symbols will appear in synchronistic fashion.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and we are seeing them more now.
Yep.
People talking about them or seeing them in pictures or posts, and more affectionately than in the past too. I've noticed it's not the scary looking, pictures.
Yeah,
dragon. In the past, it's more benevolent.
Yeah,
feeling.
dragons have been hijacked,
mm-hmm.
and like I said, been given a bad betrayal. And like the number 13, they put a hex on it
mm-hmm.
and basically told us to stay away.
Mm-hmm.
They commanded us to actually stay away so that we would not summon the dragon energy. But that has been done. The dragons have been summoned.
What's interesting, because think about the connection that's portrayed in a dragon and a dragon rider, and the telepathy and the energy associated with dragon. Just as there's so many layers to that we're just now starting to touch.
Yeah, there's a lot to do with the dragons mm-hmm. that if you open your heart to it, the truth of it, your truth of it, will come through. Mm-hmm. But first, you got to get rid of the fear. You got to mm-hmm. get rid of the fear and the programming. And that's stop this mm-hmm. and just go into your fantasy, time, and just ask questions or whatever, mm-hmm. and don't bar anything. If something comes through, write it down. Mm-hmm. It's something that you probably need to, transmute or mm-hmm. figure out for yourself what that means and what to do with it. Yeah. So that's huge. Like I said, the symbology will be spreading like flames. They'll just dragon symbols, and it isn't always about these, just looks like a dragon. It'll be fire related mm-hmm. things that you associate with a dragon. Mm-hmm. And that's basically, it's dragon energy trying to get your attention. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the next one is hold on to your crystals.
Yeah.
So this one has multiple meanings, mm-hmm. but as the powers of the fire burn away the dark controls, earth crystals harbor light sanctuaries. Mm. They're much larger inside than their physical appearance would dictate. Mm. They're also alive. Mm-hmm. They can communicate with you. Mm-hmm. They can soothe you. They can perform pretty much any function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they emit frequency. Their frequency, you can tell the difference too in the different crystals when you hold them. So you clearly is living. energetic entity.
Yeah. And the crystals that you have now are the ones who basically contracted with you to be here when this would happen. If you have a strong calling to go get more crystals or to give a crystal to someone else, don't expect a crystal in return, but don't be surprised if they say, oh yeah, I've been wanting to give you this crystal. That's how we transfer knowledge and feelings and messages, because that's what crystals really were all about. Yep. We've been blocked from knowing all this.
They're like our libraries in some ways. Yeah.
So pay attention to your crystals and seek them out when you need sanctuary, any kind of sanctuary. Or just you want to have company.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the next one is, or this is the last one. Fairylands will blossom from the fires. Your subconscious wishes will blow forth your new reality. All we have to do is let go of the old. So let me read that again. Fairylands will blossom from the fires. Your subconscious wishes will blow forth your new reality. All we have to do is let go of the old.
Yeah. There's several different images going through my mind around that, but yes.
Well, I think we all are familiar with, fairylands and fairy wishes and all that. A lot of the movies kind of portrayed it, but they didn't. They did kind of the best they could, I guess, under the circumstances. And there have been some movies that have been much better about it. But think of crystalline light, sparkling, dazzling, light as in feather light, all kinds of underground creatures, good creatures, but there's also some that are not necessarily bad, just kind of they do their own thing, so
three-wheelers.
Yeah. So, but that, it's a land of dragons, it's a land of fairies and elves and all those things. Not exactly the way movies portray them, but there are some aspects that are close.
I get the image, it's not the actual being an avatar, but the image of the scene when, the community and the trees and the lights and stuff that were in Avatar, about, how they connected with each other and they would disconnect. And just that whole scenario, them being able to fly and so forth.
Yeah, because the communication in kind of like in a fairyland is all telepathic. It's people come together just by knowing and knowing what they're being called upon to do, and they come willingly. And it's that sense of community that brings it forth. And there's a belonging that everyone wants to be a part of, some more than others, but everyone wants to be at least within that proximity. What you give freely. And everyone knows it. So, but it's that sparkling light energy that just permeates everything, and everything just has a glow about it. And to me, this is the real reality. What we're here is more dark fantasy. And it's like the ride has come to an end. And now it's time to switch back. And a lot of people say, no, I want to ride the ride again. There's a lot of people that are in this 3D world that don't want it to end. They actually, it may seem like they don't want the pain and the discomfort and the pressure and all that and evil, but they do. They thrive on it.
That's their comfort zone, even though it may be uncomfortable. Yeah.
Well, but that's what they came here to do, is to experience every last drop of it. Even if it seems evil and all that, that's from outside, a lot of them just, they wanted to come here and do that because it's a whole new experience. So it's, not everyone's meant to wake up. Even though they see the signs, they refuse it. It makes them kind of dive even deeper into the 3D world.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important not to try to convince other people, because actually by trying to convince them, they push them further away from actually awakening to it. So
yeah, when people are ready to wake up, they let their intention be known by the person or persons that they want to deal with. So if someone comes to you that and you've figured, you already kind of knew that they were asleep, and they come to you and they start asking you questions, and you're like, whoa, where's this coming from? Don't get in the way. Answer their questions, but don't oversell it.
Yeah.
Just try to be in the moment and match the energy that they're putting in, so as not to push them away.
Yeah.
It's hard to do because some starseeds get excited and they see this as an opportunity and they just create this tsunami and that's too much.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is match the frequency of that person who's coming to you.
Yeah, let them, and I've done the overwhelm piece, being excited and stuff like that too, but it's kind of like let them pull it from you. So based on what they are asking, what questions they're asking, or what dialogue they're wanting to have, it'll naturally come out of you if you don't get fearful that they aren't going to get it all in time. If you're just going, oh, this will go on as long as it needs to, and you're just feeding it out of you to them at a pace that they can digest. But it doesn't come from up here. It's all in here, because if you start to trip over into that overwhelm, you're rushing yourself. You're maybe not finding the words. You'll see some indicators. But it's important to, let them draw it from you. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep in mind that what we're going to doesn't need to be sold.
No.
It speaks for itself. So really, we are the early custodians relative to the sleepers. The only ones you can really get anywhere with are the ones who crack open their doors and ask specifically of you.
Yes.
And then it's only in relation to how much they've opened the door. No matter how much you want to, they dictate. It's their free will. It's not up to you how much. It's up to them. So just try to keep that in mind, that they may come to you and you may want to give them 10 and they only want 2. It would behoove you to give them 2, let them go away, and then let them come back when they're ready. Because next time they may ask for 4. And then you can give them 4 and they go away. And next time they come back and they want 9 or 10. So they're learning something that is hard for them to reconcile since they bought into the game. And you're learning something in how to become a better aid worker. How to give at the appropriate level that's needed, and no more, no less. And understand what's really going on. It requires you to be in the moment and use your empathy to tap into that other person and constantly to figure out where they're at. Are you pushing too much? Are they wanting more, kind of thing? And don't use your own, well, I know it, so they should know it, kind of thing. Because they should know it. But the thing is it isn't about that. It's, we all have blocks in place. Some people hold onto those blocks harder than other people because they want to maintain their current status quo in the game. But at some point, they can't help it. They're becoming more and more uncomfortable with all the energies coming in, and you know, the energy coming in may hit you, and it may open up, you know, a doorway that says, I want 10 units of knowledge. Whereas someone else, it may only be 2 units. So even though it woke you up more, or it triggered you more to want to know more, it may not be, and probably won't be, the same as others.
Yeah, and if you give them the 10 when they've asked for a 2, you'll see them kind of like, you know, it's just like too much energetically. You can feel it if you're in the moment. If you're not in the moment and you're so overly excited, you won't notice that, and it's too much for them to digest.
Yeah, it's pay attention to yourself and to them, and be in the moment. Realize what's really going on, because this isn't you that you're giving them. This is something else that you are just now starting to dabble in. We don't even know the full thrust of it yet. So what we're giving them is just a slant of what we perceive so far.
Yeah.
So what you say, the way you describe it today, may change greatly before tomorrow.
Yes.
So keep that in mind, of what are they asking for, and what does that pull from you? Like, what is it that resonates? If you have to work for it, it's not right.
Yeah.
It should flow from you. It should seem natural. And especially if you start to feel yourself kind of push, like you're trying to push the information, hopefully you'll recognize it and pause. Pause long enough to go, wait a minute, I love them. I want them to feel comfortable with this. What good is it if I drop 10 units on them and it smothers them, and then they don't come back for any more?
Right. Yeah.
So this is us becoming better aid workers and better beacons, and learning the language, the real language, which is of the heart. It may not, you know, some people might see it this way, but it's the early stages of telepathy. You're using empathy to call up your telepathic abilities to read someone. The more you can practice it and garner what's going on with them, not to make judgment, but to actually figure out what is it they need. What is it? That doesn't mean you give it everything that they need. It just so that you understand kind of where they're coming at, you know, you from, and you decide, of the 2 units they're asking for, are you willing to share those 2 units? So everyone has free will. That's another reason why the Galactus don't just come down here and just save everybody, because then we'd be hooked on them, and we still have, because we don't have free will now, but we're working on it. We have to start exercising it. So the worst thing they could do is actually come down here and save us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, then they'll have a bunch of followers.
Yeah.
Cannot.
They want to deal with us when we're ready to deal with them, when we're ready to stand on our 2 feet, and we won't be intimidated. We won't be feel like we're in a lower stance. We want to be peers, sovereign beings speaking with sovereign beings, and be able to hold that stance and use our own discernment.
Yeah.
So some people, are able to do that. A lot of people are still, just now waking up to it and realizing they do have their own voice, and that they can actually say what they want and say what they don't want. Hopefully they focus more on what they want and just avoid what they don't want. Just vote with your absence from the things you don't want.
Withdraw your energy from it. Yeah.
Don't criticize it, because that what you're leaving, someone else may be much lower moving up to that level. So it's up to us to realize we're all climbing on a ladder that has multiple levels and goes different directions and whatnot, and that everything is relative to you, but it's also relative to everyone else. So I definitely believe in you don't burn bridges.
Yeah.
I also don't want to burn ladders.
No. Well, also, what's coming up, and it's been coming up for a little bit while you've been talking, is around everyone's metaphors are different. And I think that's one reason why it's so important not to get locked into a belief system, or, this is the only way you can do it, or this is the way you have to do it, or it worked for me, so this should work for you. Because when you look at somebody, if you're looking at it from a purely energetic perspective, their evolution may look very, very different from you. But if you notice the energy of what they're choosing at the different levels, you'll see them growing. It could be in how they handle their kids, or, how they're dealing with things at their job. And it can look very what we call 3D, but behind it is the energetics of them starting to step into their sovereignty, and them starting to, make those choices for themselves and grow into the higher vibrational perspective of those things. And so if you insert and overwhelm them with something that's kind of from the side, it actually could set them back on their energetic path. Even though they're making progress, they may not be making the same progress, but they are progressing.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind is this matrix world is all symbology. We put meaning behind the different symbols. We say that's a tree. Because the energy coming together within the matrix, we decipher it and we say, oh, that's a tree. It's all symbology. All this stuff from my list, it's symbolic to represent the energy and the shape of it and the characteristics of it and how it's moving and what is it doing. Even words are symbolic. The really good writers are like word magicians. They know which words to use with what phrases and how to order them in order to get, let's just say, more bang for the buck. They may say a simple sentence, but it may trigger in some or activate someone because of all the meaning behind it, and they've utilized it in such a way that it opens up doors, and instead of just being, Jack and Jill ran up the hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's the early stages of telepathy. Telepathy moves away from words and uses impressions along with feeling, and it's much more vibrant and fulfilling, and it takes a fraction of the time to deliver those things, and there's a lot less confusion about what someone means and what they're trying to convey.
Yeah.
But we haven't been ready for that. We're just now starting to break into that and start to play around with it. And you'll notice as you start to read people more, it'll come to me, I think, from my perspective, it comes more when I check my judgment.
Mm-hmm.
The more I check my judgment, the more it opens up that telepathic ability.
Yeah.
The more judgment you have, the more it's going to clamp down on your telepathic abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're filtering, then you're blocking and filtering.
Right. The whole idea is to clear out any restrictions on that telepathic pipe coming through,
mm-hmm.
so that it's not all very narrowly defined. Right now, we all do. We all
mm-hmm.
read people,
mm-hmm.
and we figure out, oh, she's not in a good mood, or
mm-hmm.
whatever. That's all telepathy.
Yeah.
But it's the lowest level of telepathy. The next levels coming online get bigger and bigger pipes, and
mm-hmm.
you start really getting a real sense of what someone, they may say this, but you can tell what they really mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to cascade into more and more the less we judge.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we get the other blocks out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun.
Yep. So
that's a good list.
Yep.
I agree with you. It was interesting. The one that was made yesterday was like yesterday's energy. So it was like you're talking about it, but it's from a very different perspective versus this list you made today. You could feel the energetic difference in the list because it was pulled from this energetic bubble of today. It was very fascinating.
Well, that goes on to the other thing I was talking about that I shared with you about. I could also go over this a little bit. Just this came to me the other day. Yeah, actually, it was yesterday morning. Starseed warpers awaken.
Mm-hmm.
Starseeds are warpers. We warp stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, it goes hand in hand with being a starseed. So what do you warp? Well, there's
mm-hmm.
lots of things out there to warp. There are time warpers, people who just speed up or slow down time depending on planetary needs
mm-hmm.
or your own needs.
Mm-hmm.
It depends. You may notice that you seem to just warp time
mm-hmm.
in weird ways.
Mm-hmm.
Don't always assume that you always make plenty of time for yourself. If you're a time warper, time warpers tend to like to squeeze time
mm-hmm.
and make it just in time,
mm-hmm.
or see what it feels like to actually make yourself be late.
Yeah.
By speeding up time. Mm-hmm. So there are time warpers. There are also elemental warpers. Obviously the four elements, fire,
mm-hmm.
air, water, and earth, that warp those things. Now, do you see yourself doing it? Do you sense that you're doing it in some symbolic way? No, but these things are these are awakening.
Mm-hmm.
So these they are and will be happening more and more. Other ones are matter warpers.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might call them manifestors.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's all part of this, but they start out as warping first. Mm-hmm. They're manifestations. All of this that we're doing daily is we're manifesting it.
Mm-hmm.
We're just doing it according to someone else's directive. Mm-hmm. Now, when we start waking up, we start warping based on our mission and our capabilities. So it might be one of these. Matter warpers, obviously, they're going to be physically warping matter.
Mm-hmm.
It may be really small at first, and you'll notice that you touch things or you think about things and they warp some way or fashion. Mm-hmm. It's like, how did that break that way? Or how did that get over mm-hmm. there? That's you warping things. Mm-hmm. And then there are mind warpers. Mm-hmm. The dark forces have a lot of these, mm-hmm. and they employ them around, and they've had them out for quite a while to keep us tied into the matrix. Mm-hmm. They just warp our minds. Yeah. But they're losing their power. They've pretty much lost their power. And so now we're coming out from underneath those mind warpers. But we also, the light forces also mm-hmm. have mind warpers to help help this. In fact, most starseeds are at least some degree of mind warpers. And then we have the manifestation magicians who cross multiples. We all will eventually, but the manifestation magicians will be the ones who don't know how. They just realize that they're warping more than one of these at a time.
Yeah, cool.
So
very interesting.
Yep. That's all I got.
Very good. Oh, that was a lot.
Sorry it was boring. I'll try to be more exciting next time. I'll see what I can come up with.
You warped my mind.
Yeah. So I think things are moving fast.
Oh, they are.
Like I said, all forces are on standby right now. I think even here physically on this planet, there are some forces that are on standby. You may have heard about it. Yep. You know, think armed forces. They've been given the warning.
They're ready,
and they are positioning. So, and that doesn't mean that the dark forces are not just sitting idly by waiting for all this to happen. They're also positioning too. So who knows what they're going to do? But I do know that the damage they can do is very limited. They've already tried their false flags. They've already tried all the different ways to get to us and whatnot. So they've gotten more desperate. What I'm seeing is that the dumbest things are coming out of their mouths. And it's kind of like, I don't believe that person just said that on camera. I can't believe that.
Plus you're seeing the desperation to try to get our energies. And so it's, you know, paying attention, like you said earlier, the triggers, paying attention to what triggers you, and you can learn a lot about yourself, but then also recognize when you're putting energy, whether it be resistant energy or, you know, energy toward it, if it's something that you support. So yeah, pay attention to those, because you want to do that. Keep your energy inside yourself to work through this so that you're balanced and not getting pulled this way or that way.
You are your own governor. And I mean that
in a variety of ways.
You govern yourself and how you see things and how you take things and how much things trigger you and how much things push you this way or push you. It's you. We are trying to engage each other, but it's hard to do while you yourself are being triggered and you don't really know what's going on, because your subconscious knows more about what's going on than you do. And we're just, think of us, we're kind of like shadows of our subconscious. We create these shadows in this 3D plane, and we're shadow puppets and doing things, and we're going about our thing, thinking about free will and thinking about this and that and the other, when it's not at this level. This is all the shadow of it. Really, it's happening at a higher level. And you feel it, and you can feel more of it, if not by trying, but by relaxing and letting it come through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right.
Excellent. Well, bye. Until next time.
See ya.